Welcome to this week's edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Ken Campbell. I'm Dylan Waugh. I'm the sidekick. I am the Corporal Barbella to Sergeant Bilko. If you get that reference, you're probably very old or dead. This week we're going to be talking about the playoffs, obviously. We're going to be talking about the coaching carousel, but we're also going to have to deal with some more serious stuff in the Hockey Canada. And I think we'll be starting there. So, Ken, before we get started in what's going to be a pretty difficult beginning of the podcast, why don't you tell me how you're doing?
I'm doing great. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day.
That's an important holiday.
That's an important day. Yeah, today is that day, and it's the first time in a couple of years that people have been able to gather for that. So all the best to everyone who's celebrating that, and let's hope we can be on the right side of history and start getting things right.
You know, I mean, and this is what it always comes down to for me, is that I don't know, as a classic middle of the road, middle class white guy, I don't know what the best moves forward. But when I talk to, I've got one Indigenous friend, and if they tell me that land recognition is important to them, then I say, we just do it. If they tell me that this holiday is important to them, then I just say, you know what I mean?
Just listen.
I hear a lot of the arguments being like, well, that doesn't make up for it. And nobody's saying that it makes up for it.
No, anything. It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't. But you have to start the reparation somewhere.
You have to start somehow.
And I think it starts with listening.
Yeah.
And it starts with being compassionate and understanding. You know, I mean, I've said for the last couple of federal elections, if there's just one leader or one party out there that can make one promise, and that is to have clean drinking water for everyone. Yeah. I'm going to vote for that person.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be enough for me. That would be enough for me right there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're speaking from a perspective of very much on the outside. Yeah. But I think we can listen. I think we can be compassionate. I think we can learn.
We're people that are willing to learn.
Right.
And that's the best that we can be. And so I like having this stuff in the forefront. I like having this stuff on Twitter. I like having this stuff there, that it's front of mind, that I can, engorge on this sort of stuff. Now, before we get into our first segment,
one heavy topic to another.
Oh, gee whiz.
Yeah.
Before we get into our next subject, we should give a trigger warning. Yeah. We will be talking about some very difficult subjects, and of course, that is the Team Canada and the sexual assault case that's happening right now.
Alleged sexual assaults. Yeah.
Well, that's why I said the case.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough.
With the alleged. Fair enough. But we will be talking about that. So skip ahead about 10, 15 minutes. If this is not something that's for you, it's understandable. But without further ado, let's get into it. I know you probably know Carol Off.
Yeah, as it happens, CBC.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
From CBC. Yeah. She said something to the effect of, and this kind of ties into Indigenous and this, something to the effect of, it's important for people to bear witness. Mm-hmm. And it was on Twitter, and there was some controversy about something happening, and she said, look, we can't all make a difference, but it is important to bear witness. And that's kind of how I'm feeling.
Right.
Both with Indigenous Peoples Day.
Right.
And with this case in Hockey Canada. Now, we just had a parliamentary hearing yesterday, and you were very much, you hung off of every word. And so I'm curious, you also wrote an article on your Substack.
Yep.
And
kencampbell.substack.com.
Yes.
Yep.
That's the one. Yeah. You also wrote an article on your Substack, and I'm curious as to your main takeaways from yesterday.
Oh, wow. Well, it was by way of background, outgoing Hockey Canada CEO Tom Rennie, incoming Hockey Canada CEO Scott Smith, and Hockey Canada Foundation Chairman Dave Andrews were all, and it was actually supposed to be Glenn McCurdy, who just recently retired as kind of their insurance guy, but he couldn't be there for personal reasons. They were invited to testify, well, probably more than invited to testify, to the Canadian Heritage Standing Committee that was looking into the alleged sexual assault in 2018 at the Hockey Canada Gala in London, Ontario. And I really, I have a lot of takeaways. One of which is I keep trying to think of a scenario under which it could have gone worse for Hockey Canada, and I can't.
Yeah.
It could not have possibly gone worse for Hockey Canada yesterday than it did. I mean, right from not really being prepared to answer a couple of the questions to, at one point, Tom Rennie said that because the police investigated it, the London police investigated it, and they had a third party law firm, Hennon Hutchison here in Toronto, investigate it. And they said that basically the investigation was never completed.
Yeah.
It's an incomplete investigation. It's been suspended. Tom Rennie said at one point that between 4 and 6 of the 19 players who were were in attendance at the gala, participated. And then at one point, Scott Smith said, no, it was 12 or 13 that participated. When Tom said between 4 and 6, he must have meant, the ones who didn't participate. Yeah. So it was just a shit show, to be honest, all around in a lot of ways. But to me, the biggest takeaway is that I think the biggest problem that people have when things like this happen is that because these are talented, gifted, entitled hockey players, that there will be no repercussions. Yeah. And after yesterday, that confirmed all of those biases. Notions, like big time. Yeah. There was absolutely zero repercussion for any of those players who was allegedly involved in that gang rape. Right from the Hockey Canada did not compel them to agree to cooperate with the investigation. They strongly recommended. And see, what it comes back to me is that there are no repercussions. There are no repercussions. Yeah. Hockey Canada paid the settlement. These guys didn't lose a penny out of the NHL money that they're presumably making right now because they're presumably in the NHL. But what it tells me is like, did Hockey Canada ever really want to know who these guys are? Did they ever really want to know? Because it just seemed to me there was a very cursory investigation here, a long one. It went over 2 years, but really an incomplete investigation. And then basically the investigators tell them and say, we can't tell you definitively what happened in that hotel room that night, and we can't identify who was involved. Yeah. And so Hockey Canada basically, from what I could gather, took that and said, okay, this was a lawsuit that was settled in a matter of weeks. Yeah. Like, these things don't get settled like this. No, they don't get settled this quickly. No. And so Hockey Canada is trying to push this narrative that, we cared about the victim, and we wanted to, lessen her pain and suffering and all this stuff. So we resolved, came to an agreement in like a matter of weeks on an incident that we're not even told anything about what really happened.
They couldn't close the book fast enough.
No, it's exactly. Yeah. It's very clear they wanted this to go away very quickly and very cleanly. And so to me, what that tells me is not only are there no repercussions for any of this, to the people who are allegedly involved, but if I'm Hockey Canada, do I not want to know when I'm picking a national team for the World Championships or for the Olympics or for the World Cup, if it ever happens again? Yeah, I want to know if one of those guys is alleged to have gang raped someone. I'm sorry, but I want to know that. And if I know that, he's not going to wear Canada's colors.
So you just said something, and you've now said it twice in this conversation that is so important to me. Sexual assault is the broadest term, from smacking somebody on the butt. Yeah. I'm not defending people who do this, but some men genuinely think that they're joking, and then when they're not, it's not perceived that way. Right. And so sexual assault is from smacking on the butt. This is gang rape.
Yeah, there's no gray area.
And that's where it it almost bothers me that it like sugarcoats it, right? It's like calling the Korean War a policing action.
Right.
It wasn't a policing action.
Right.
At no point was it a policing action. And so this, for me personally, my wife and I have a fantastic relationship. We talk about all of the issues of the world. We, on a quasi-regular basis, will stay up until 3:00 in the morning and just talking about the issues of the world.
Right.
Depending if something has happened that
Right.
gets us talking, right? But this one, you know, she tends to get most of her hockey news through me. She watches the game, but she doesn't really care about the outside. I've told her that this is happening, but I've not even been able to bring out the words as to what exactly is happening because I
Right,
just find
right.
it so
Right.
distasteful and so difficult, as many fans of the sport are probably feeling right now, to reconcile the sport that they love with this.
Right.
And that's a very difficult thing. Now I've got a good friend that once said to me, if you look at a professional athlete as a role model, that's a non-starter. You've already
Right.
You've already
Exactly.
made a mistake.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's not wrong, but nevertheless we do.
Right.
And people do.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no getting around that.
Right,
And
right.
so this particularly, that's why I gave the trigger warning, because I wanted to use the term
Yeah.
gang rape.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to fluff it up
Right.
with sexual assault or whatever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
I almost have to wonder, this is just me. This is just me saying this. If Hockey Canada either knows or has a very good idea as to who did it, and they did not complete the thing for plausible deniability.
Yep.
I have to wonder if that's a case. But at the end of the day, I always believe in second chances
Right.
and rehabilitation
Right.
and all of that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't
But you have to acknowledge. You have to acknowledge
Right.
that you did something first.
exactly where I was driving
Right?
at.
Yeah.
That does not happen without any repercussions
Right.
to your action.
Right.
I mean, we had in Toronto in maybe 2013, the case with Giangomeshi.
Yes.
And that, for those that are not in Toronto or Canada, Giangomeshi was, it feels weird to say, but the biggest radio star in the country.
He was one of them. Yeah. Absolutely.
And to say, I know that sounds weird to say, but his show was a pop culture show, and he had celebrities, like the biggest list celebrities were on
Yeah.
Q with Giangomeshi.
Yeah.
And what was so interesting about that case was that it was groundbreaking in that it exposed all of the things that we do wrong in sexual assault cases.
Right.
It exposed, and now this is, I say exposed because of course it's been happening wrong for a long time, but this was the first time to my recollection, that the public was all of a sudden starting to really question, how do we question
Yeah.
victims
Yeah.
in a way that they will be able to properly testify? What's the cross-examination? What's the psychological impact of what a victim does? Because, of course, Giangomeshi was let off the hook because his victims called him back.
Right.
And therefore, that was used as proof of consent, when in actuality, we now know, it's more public knowledge to know, that sometimes victims will do that as a way to normalize to themselves what had happened.
Right.
And so I'm no lawyer. I don't pretend to be one and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, there's a new thing that's coming out around this, which I think is fascinating, which is whether in a situation like this, an NDA, non-disclosure agreement,
Right.
is what's it called? Whether it's
Enforceable
constitutional.
or
Whether it's constitutional.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a very interesting thing, because the truth is that it should not be constitutional. If maybe it should be constitutional in situations where it's not a criminal act, but you're talking about people who have committed a crime,
Right.
and a heinous one,
Right.
but allegedly.
Yeah, see,
Right,
and
right.
that's the whole problem here, Dylan, is that
Yeah.
we're sitting here saying they allegedly committed a crime. We're saying 8 players out of 19 that were at this gala gang raped a woman allegedly, but we have no like Tom Rennie talked about a common set of facts.
Yeah.
Right off the top, he talked about a common set of facts. What are you talking about, a common set of facts?
Yeah.
We have no facts. We don't have the facts. And that's why every player on this team now is going to be painted with that brush of being, was he the alleged rapist? Was he one of them? You know, was it this guy? Was it that guy? Was it this guy? Was it Alex Formenton? Was it Max Comtois? Was it Cale Makar? Was it, was it these guys that were on this team?
Yeah.
Was it Tyler Steenbergen? Was it Carter Hart? Was it,
Victor Mete,
and you're sitting there going, well, Victor Mete wasn't there. He was actually in Cancun at the time.
Yeah, that's right.
But you can go, like any bozo can go to Hockey DB or Elite Prospects and figure out who was on that team.
Yeah.
And so now here we are
on that team.
Yeah. And so now here we are going, well, was he one of them? Was he one of them? Who did it? Who did it? And to me, this is I mean, it's just a complete failure of leadership by Hockey Canada here, because, and I just want to finish this point, is because to me, Hockey Canada treated this like, we just want to run past the graveyard like this and whistle.
Yeah.
We don't want to know. Yeah. We don't want to find out. Yeah. We don't want anything. And in reality, it should have been, okay, did this happen? Is this a legitimate case? Is this a case of a woman trying to cash in on the fame of some very soon to be rich athletes? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, if it is, then it's very important to us that these guys are cleared and exonerated, and the ones who didn't do anything are cleared and exonerated. And if it wasn't, then we've got to know who these guys are, because these guys are going to be playing in the NHL. They're going to be playing on Team Canada. They might be coaching Team Canada someday. They might be coaching kids. They might be coaching girls.
Yeah. You bring up the point, which I think that I want to kind of bring it to a head with this, which is whenever a player, let's say player X cross-checks player Y in the neck, ends player Y's career.
Right.
Player X gets a
$5,000 fine.
No, let's say a 15-game suspension. Player X goes and appeals that suspension. And the question that we've been asking, and I think I have, if not an answer, an educated guess towards, is always why, if the NHLPA is meant to protect its players,
right?
Why are they appealing player X's suspension when player Y's career is over?
Because they're both members of the association and they have to look out for the interests of both guys. And
hang on.
And that's where the conflict
why did they choose one guy?
Right.
Why did they choose player X over player Y?
Right.
Because
they should have somebody from the PA arguing as vociferously that this guy should be banned for a year.
No, but I'll tell you why. Yeah. I'll tell you why. I think that
it's about money. It's all about money.
It's
all about money. A guy gets suspended, he loses money.
So the Hockey Canada has decided that they would rather have rumors swirl around, was it 16 players?
19
players. They'd rather have rumors swirl around 19 players than know for sure that between 6 and 8 players has done this.
Yeah.
And so again, you've got a situation where they're protecting the money, is what essentially it comes down to. And that's what's so disgusting about all of this. And it's the same issue that we come with that comes in with suspensions. The NHLPA shows its stripes when it protects the player.
Yeah.
Look, player Y that's career is over still has a guaranteed contract. They're still making that money, and that money's still going to the coffers of the NHLPA, right?
Right.
Player X, that money he loses.
Right.
Therefore, that money is not going to the NHLPA.
Right. Therefore,
we protect player X, even though player X is the perpetrator, not the victim.
I don't think it's a matter of the money going to the NHLPA. I think it's a matter of sort of preserving the wealth of each of the players. Right. Like, it's not going to them, right? And so, anyways, we're getting off on a tangent here. In my opinion, this was an enormous abdication of leadership by Hockey Canada.
Yeah.
I think they've acknowledged it. I think they understand it. I think they've made some changes. But one of the MPs said, I keep coming back to responsibility versus accountability. They're taking responsibility, but they're not taking accountability.
Yeah.
They're not being accountable for this.
Yeah.
As one MP said, nobody lost their job. Nobody had the privilege of wearing the Maple Leaf logo taken away from them. There were zero negative repercussions for any of these guys who are allegedly involved. And that is the most troubling and shocking thing.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're going to try to transition out of this.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
It's a tough one. Yeah. No, I mean, it's a heavy subject, but like I opened up with Carol off, we're trying to bear witness.
Right. In
what little way, in what little platform we have and can, we're doing our best.
Yeah.
So let's transition to the coaching carousel.
Okay.
And so if you're listening, if you're watching us on YouTube, hello. You can check us out on the Hockey Podcast Network for full episodes. You can check out Ken's writing, kencampbell.substack.com. You can check out our Twitters, Ken_Campbell27 _Dylan Waugh. And check out our YouTube section for clips of these episodes. You get them in 10-minute segments. And again, you can then, if you don't wish to listen to what we were just talking about, then you can skip that much more easily. So we're going to talk about the coaching carousel.
Right.
We haven't talked about really any of these. So we're going to go sort of back somewhat chronological. Martin St. Louis gets re-upped in Montreal.
Right.
Thoughts?
Good hire, obviously. I do not.
It's a little short-sighted, if you ask me.
Oh, wow. Okay. If you're going to start with the short jokes.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. I'm out of here.
Uncle. Uncle.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I think, I don't put a ton of credibility into a team's run when they have nothing to play for and they get this new coach or they make this trade or whatever, right? You always hear it, right? Oh, the Buffalo Sabres went, 14-5-1 in their last 20 games of the season. Yeah. So next year they're going to be great, and they are.
The Ottawa Senators 2 years ago.
Yeah, and they are, exactly. And they are for the first month of the season, and then they drop off. So I don't put a ton of credibility into that, but a couple of things. They weren't that good.
Yeah.
First of all, like they actually, as a team, in terms of results, they weren't that much better. They lost a lot of games. Yeah. Yeah.
They won 2 games in a row for their first time in the entire season.
But it appears as though, and I think this is what the important thing is that you have to have the right match of the right personality with the team and where it's going and what it's doing. And I cannot, other than John Tortorella in Philadelphia, I can't think of a better fit, than Marty St. Louis in Montreal. Because, they've got some very, very good young talent. They're transitioning. Shane Wright or Slavkovsky or Logan Cooley or somebody is going to be their first pick overall. Yeah. Probably going to be Shane Wright. They're probably going to go the safe route and go Shane Wright, I would think. And so they're going to have to integrate those guys into the lineup, and those guys are going to need to be taught, because I think if we learned anything from Jack Hughes, it's that unless you're Sidney Crosby or Connor McDavid or Alex Ovechkin or whatever, it really doesn't matter how talented you are as an 18-year-old. Yeah, you're pretty friggin' clueless. You are. You're clueless as to what it takes to play in the best league in the world. Yeah. So you need someone who is going to shepherd you through that process. Yeah. And I think he's a really good guy to be able to do that. I think the good thing about the Montreal Canadiens is they're saying, we don't have to win. Yeah, we could finish 32nd overall again next year. Yeah. That's okay. Yeah. That's okay. And there's no slapdash, kind of we're 1 or 2 trades or a free agent signing away from, contending here. Yeah. No. We're gonna do this right. Mm-hmm. And they should be doing it because they've got carte blanche. Yeah. Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes have a honeymoon period here, where there's not a lot that they can do wrong. There's
it's celebrity
what Steve. What's that?
Hugo.
Nice.
Hughes Gordon. Yeah.
Hughes Gordon, not bad.
Hugo is what the kids are calling him.
Nice. Yeah. But it's like what Steve Yzerman had in Detroit. Yeah. And he used it. Yeah. And he built up their prospect system, and he got a bunch of young players, and now, slowly but surely, we are going to see the fruits of that. We're going to see that bear fruit. Totally. So I really think that for this team at this time, where this team is, I think it's a really good fit.
I mean, you turn around and you say, best case scenario, he becomes the kind of coach that wins you games. Worst case scenario, we already know that right now, currently, with no improvement, he is already the kind of coach that helps players progress.
Yeah.
So worst case scenario, he helps develop your players, and then you say, well, thanks for that, Marty, and then you hire another coach.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, he grows with the team, and
I think that's a very important point.
Yeah.
Is he's going to get better. Whoops. He's going to get better too.
Yeah.
Like he's going to become a better coach.
Yeah. Well, I said to you this morning.
He's going to improve along, like incrementally, you would think, along with the group of players that is going to take them to where they want to go.
And the thing is that Montreal is developing an analytics department. They're developing a sports science department.
They've hired a guy.
Yeah.
That's to say they've hired a guy.
Look, listen, if they had 0 guys before and they have 1 guy now.
Yeah.
Like that is literally more than 1 million times the amount of people that they had, right? Yes. So math is fun.
Yeah.
My point is that he's going to be surrounded by people that will help him achieve that success.
Mm-hmm.
And a guy like Marty St. Louis, to me, strikes me as being self-assured enough to accept the help when it's there.
Yes.
And so, I mean, what did I say to you this morning? I said it'll be interesting to see what he does coaching when he's had more than 5 minutes to think about coaching.
Yeah.
Hey, Marty, you want to come coach the Habs? Sure, I'll think about what to do on the drive over.
Yeah. I'm going to go home. I'll ask my wife what she thinks.
Yeah,
and then I'll
I got a 4-hour drive from Vermont or wherever he was living at the time.
Yeah.
And,
Connecticut, I think. Yeah.
Connecticut, yeah. And I'll think about what to do, by the time I get there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I think we're on the same page there with Marty St. Louis. You mentioned him now, so why don't we just go to John Tortorella in Philadelphia?
Well, I mean, I look at the Tortorella, the DeBoer, the Cassidy. Is there anybody else that I'm missing?
No, those are the 4.
Okay, well, I look at that, and the first thing I think of is, the recycling of coaches is alive and well in the NHL. It's very alive and well.
Yep.
I mean, John Tortorella is Tampa, New York, Vancouver, Columbus. Am I missing anybody?
Those are the ones that I can think of.
Yeah, so he's on his 5th team.
Yeah.
But to me, I mean, this is another one where it's a great fit.
Yeah.
I mean, this team has no identity.
Okay.
This team has no identity other than they suck. Like they have no identity, right? And their young players have really stalled. Ivan Provorevs, the Travis Konechny's, these guys have really, like, if there is a team that needs someone to come in and kick ass, it's the Philadelphia Flyers.
The most important prospect that they have, my opinion, is Carter Hart.
Mm-hmm.
And you put Carter Hart behind a John Tortorella defensive system, such as what Elvis Merzlikins was the beneficiary of.
Yeah.
And you watch him regain that confidence and start to thrive.
Right. And
you want a bold prediction? Carter Hart's in the Vezina voting next year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There's my what's his name that was injured all year that they got from the defenseman that was injured all year. They got in a trade last year. The Philadelphia Flyers.
Oh, yeah. Ryan Ellis.
That's right. Yeah, that they got from the.
You got to stop. Like it's June 21st, and you're pulling this.
What am I pulling?
I can't remember that stuff.
Anyways, what I'm saying is that you bring in a healthy Ryan Ellis.
Yeah.
Tortorella implements his system. Ivan Provorov takes a step. Carter Hart's able to take a step. Between Carter Hart being able to take a step and the team taking a step, meeting halfway, that to me screams Vezina candidate.
I wonder how Cam Atkinson is feeling right now. Like, you're shitting me.
Yeah.
Really? No, but to me, it's like...
Guy's like a bad virus. Yeah.
To me, it's like if there's a team that needs a massive shake-up out of the complacency and... Like, I just feel like Philadelphia is like, it's like, man, we're good at losing.
Yeah.
Boy, have we ever learned how to lose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if there's any team that needs that kind of injection, It's that team. And
thing
who knows?
not
Who
mentioned
knows?
about
He's a
Torts-
he'll probably have a 4-year deal,
Yeah.
and he'll probably have a 3-year shelf life. You know what I mean? Like, it's always like that, right?
It's the Grateful Dead too. 9-mile skid on a 10-mile ride. That's what he is. Yeah. Honestly, though, the thing about Torts, and we've said it about Daryl Sutter, the thing about Torts is that, yes, he's extremely old school, but he is not close-minded to some newer ideologies.
And I think the edges the edges have been smoothed a little bit. No, I do. I think he's been humbled a few times.
I do.
And
I agree with you.
I think because I mean, if you talk to the guys in Columbus, he was very accommodating there.
A lot of players love him.
Yeah.
A lot of players love him.
There are players. I talked to Ian Cole. Ian Cole loved playing for John Dortorell. Loved it.
Yeah, and Ian Cole is a good, hard-nosed kind of, lunch pail sort of type player.
Absolutely.
But I mean, it's like, getting the Sedin twins to block shots is like the stupidest thing that anybody could have ever come up with.
Right. Even though Steven Stamkos is blocking shots now. It's stupid. I agree it's stupid.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, don't give away too much. Okay, let's go to Pete DeBoer in Dallas. I really feel like Dallas went out of the frying pan and into the fiery inferno.
Really?
Yeah.
I think they just flatlined. I think who's the guy that can best fit what we're trying to do here? We've got a veteran team that we think might be able to maybe come close to doing
thank
something.
God we're going to get like really? Pete DeBoer. He's next.
Yeah.
Hey? Wonderful.
No,
that's like firing Bruce Cassidy and bringing back Claude Julien. Like, come on, guys.
It's going to be really interesting in Dallas because I think they've made a statement that they're not ready.
They're not taking a step back.
They're not ready to take a step back.
Yeah.
When the reality is that this is a team that, you've got Jamie Benn who actually had a really good year this year.
It wasn't bad.
Yeah, but I mean, he's fading.
Radulov fell off that cliff that we always expected. Yeah.
But what I find interesting about the Dallas Stars is they have guys like they have
Robertson,
Wyatt Johnson,
who
led the OHL in scoring in the regular season and the playoffs. They have Logan Stankoven, who's from the Kamloops Blazers, who had the best points per game in the WHL. They have Maverick Bork.
I can't wait till he comes into the NHL and his nickname is Stanky.
Stanky. Could be Loogie Stanky. and they have Maverick.
We got the Stanky Lube coming up the wing.
They have Maverick Bork. They have Ty Dellandrea. They have some really very, very, very exciting offensive prospects coming up. And
I told you to look at their system. Remember?
Right.
Yeah.
but it'll be really interesting to see how that all meshes together because they are a very defense-oriented team. Yeah. And DeBoer is a very defense-oriented coach. So are these guys going to be able to come in and be free to be able to make the adjustment to the NHL and be able to do what they can do best? Yeah. Or are they going to be put into the, you got to learn to check and play in your own end for, before we'll give you more than 6 minutes of ice time a game. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think it's a really interesting dynamic that's going on there. And it's a 4-year deal again. Yeah. And it just, to me, it's
probably has another 3-year shelf life.
Yeah. But to me, the statement here is we're not ready to throw in the towel yet. Yeah. And it could go one of two ways. Maybe they find another long playoff run in them. Yeah. Because DeBoer's been on them and a lot of these players have been on them. Yeah. Or they just languish in that mushy middle that doesn't do anybody any good, and you keep trying to just make the playoffs every year.
Show me a good coach and I'll show you a Jake Ottinger.
Right. Yeah.
But so first thing I got to say about Pete DeBoer, I have a lot of respect for him as a human being. Yep. When Colin Kaepernick knelt during the national anthem, Pete DeBoer was asked because Joel Ward was on the San Jose Sharks at the same time, and Pete DeBoer was coaching the San Jose Sharks. Yep. Joel Ward was asked, "Are you planning on kneeling?" And Joel Ward said, "I haven't decided yet." And then Pete DeBoer was asked, how would you feel about this, right? And his response was something to the effect of, "When I was in law school, I specialized in human rights. How do you think I feel about this?" right?
Yeah.
And it's like, it was just like so like it was such the answer was, the hell does this have to be a debate for?
Right.
This guy has a right.
Yeah,
and you're going to ask me, oh, what do you think? You're going to trample his rights?
Yeah.
No, I don't think I will.
There were coaches, and
of course there were coaches that did, and Kaepernick's still not
and the
playing.
guy we just talked about, guy that we just talked about was one of them.
Tortorella.
Tortorella was adamantly against it.
Right. And I also worked briefly with Pete DeBoer's nephew.
Oh, okay.
Super, super nice guy.
Really cool guy. Then they're going to win the Stanley Cup in 2 years.
So all of that nice things to say about Pete DeBoer, I think he's a dinosaur of a coach.
Okay.
Just like we watched Claude Julien have a slight resurgence in Montreal and then kind of, fall off the wagon again and kind of go back to his old ways and really kind of coach against the grain, but not in, whatever, right?
Yep.
Just like we saw that with Claude Julien, I think that we're seeing that with Pete DeBoer. I think that he's going to have to really rethink his ideology in coaching if he's going to have a lot of success. I think that he will have some success.
Yep.
It's a good team with an excellent goaltender. Yep. I think that he will have some success. I'm not going to, say that he won't, but like I said, I think, I'm not hugely sold on Pete DeBoer.
Okay.
I think he's a good guy.
I don't think you're alone in that assessment. I think that you would have some people that would agree with that.
Yes, I would agree that there are people that would agree. Final coach, this one I'm very high on, and I love the fit. Oh, man, do I love the fit. Bruce Cassidy for the Las Vegas Golden Knights.
Well, what I will say about Bruce Cassidy and the Las Vegas Golden Knights is if he just comes in and does one thing.
Yeah.
This team has, as good as this team has been over the years, their power play has sucked.
Yeah.
Like it's been terrible.
Yeah.
So if he can come in and fix that'll be worth the hire right there.
You've got to ask yourself, I just thought of this, right? Habs guy, cover the Habs, all the rest of it. How has Pacioretty been one of the best offensive players in the NHL for like 10 years? And I don't think he's ever once been on a good power play. Like once.
Yeah, really, eh?
Right?
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? Because the power play in Montreal was terrible.
Yeah, it's almost as bad in Vegas.
And you're right. It's one of the worst. It's like 29 or something like that in the league.
Yeah.
In terms of the clip that it's producing at. And you've got to think, Pacioretty, for much of this year, when he wasn't injured, was like leading the league or top 3 in the league for goals per game. Mm-hmm. So when he's there, he's playing exceptionally well.
Yeah.
And yet still can't sort it out of the power play. It's so bizarre. What do you think's harder? 5 versus 5 scoring or power play scoring?
Yeah.
Wait
a minute.
Let me put on my old thinking cap for a second there. Yeah. So I agree with you. If Cassidy can figure out the power play, which it wasn't a world-beating power play in Boston, I remember, but it was pretty good.
A couple of years, it was like top 5.
Oh, really?
Like
I thought it was top 10.
His first couple of years there, well, you could check, but I think it was his first couple of years there.
Yeah.
It was like right there.
Yeah.
It was like right there. And then it was sort of middle of the pack. But I mean, I'm sure Vegas would we would kill for 15th overall.
I know.
We kill for that.
I know. If I had a nickel for every Habs article I read that said if we just had a league average power play.
Right.
If I had a nickel for that, Ken, I wouldn't be sitting here doing a podcast with you. I'd be out on my
No, you would.
beach in
No, you
Vegas.
wouldn't. No, you wouldn't.
No?
You'd be here doing that because you're really passionate about this
It's
stuff.
very true.
You're very passionate.
It's very true.
But we'd have like
we'd have
a way nicer studio. We'd have way better equipment. You'd be able to afford a good haircut. That kind of stuff.
I try to act aloof, but truly, this podcast is the wind that fills my sails.
It's the wind beneath your wings, as Bette Midler would say.
Yes, well, I decided
it's the wind beneath your friggin' wings.
I decided to mix metaphors.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. So on the flip side of I couldn't think of another metaphor to mix there. Never mind.
Okay.
Look, wow. Bruce Cass.
Wow.
Just thud. Yeah, just thud as I hit the ground there.
Yeah, you got a lot of crickets in your backyard right now.
Where?
Yeah.
Bruce Cassidy, he just, Pete DeBoer really brought Vegas away from what I think was successful for Vegas.
They weren't overcoached. They weren't overcoached.
Yeah.
Gerard Gallant does not overcoach.
No, we've seen that.
Like, he lets his players do what they're good at doing.
Yeah. And so Bruce Cassidy, I really feel like he brought Vegas away from what made them successful.
No, Peter DeBoer brought Vegas. Yeah.
Brought Vegas away from what made them successful. And that's why I feel like he might be kind of, a little too, some of these coaches, especially when they've been around for a little while and they've had a lot of success doing the same thing for like 15 years.
Yeah.
They're a little high on their own supply. You know what I mean? They're kind of drinking their own Kool-Aid at that point, right?
Right.
It wasn't technically Kool-Aid.
They're reading their own press clippings. That's what people say.
Yes, exactly.
But I think too, what Bruce Cassidy brings in is that this guy is not uncomfortable going into a room of elite players and telling them this is how we have to do things, and this is what you have to do to be better, and this is how we're going to do it, and finding that balance. Like,
I'm sorry, are you Jack Eichel? That doesn't sound like Patrice Bergeron.
Yeah. No, but he's coached Bergeron, he's coached Marchand, he's coached Zdeno Chara. He's coached some very high end, Pasternak, some very high end players.
Yeah.
So he can walk in and he's not going to be intimidated by a Mark Stone or a Jack Eichel or an Alex Pietrangelo or whatever next shiny new thing comes along that they're going to pick up in free agency or trade, So
I think and the thing with Pete DeBoer was that the system kind of turned, it was a camel. A camel is a horse designed by a committee. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
It was a camel. It wasn't really that great defensively,
and
but it wasn't really that great
desert.
offensively. And it was in the desert. It wasn't really that great offensively. It just was kind of like, it just wasn't really anything. Like Leonard wasn't really able to thrive under it. And we've seen Leonard thrive under many, many different types of systems. So the fact that he wasn't able to, we've seen him thrive in Chicago with complete defensive nightmare, and we've seen him thrive in the Islanders, the best defensive system in the league.
Right.
The way I look at it is that if there's one goalie that we can be fairly sure can thrive under most systems, it's Robin Leonard.
Yeah, but what we can't be sure of is his health.
No, of course not. But what I'm saying is
he may not ever be healthy.
Well,
and therein is that was the huge part of the problem in Vegas this year.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you judge what they were able to accomplish and weren't able to accomplish when you've just been when the hockey gods have just said, we got it in for you this year.
Picture Death's finger.
Yeah, we have it in for you this year. Yeah. So be interesting.
Anyways, I love Bruce Cassidy, love the hiring, and I think that he's just him in Vegas, that. We'll see how the season goes, and we'll see how people's health are, but that could be a Stanley Cup winning formula.
Yeah. Yep. All right, hockey fans, the pursuit for the Stanley Cup is on, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, has an unbelievable offer for the most exciting playoffs in sports. New customers can bet $5 on any team to win and get $100 in free bets no matter what, win or lose. Looking to turn a small bet into a big payday during the playoffs? With DraftKings same-game parlays, you can do just that. Create your own parlay by combining multiple bets, like which team will win, how many goals will be scored, and more. It's your shot at an even bigger payout. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now using promo code THPN. Bet $5 on any team to win and get $100 in free bets no matter what. That's code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply.
Shall we move on to the Tampa Bay Lightning?
And the actual Stanley Cup that's going on right now?
Colorado Avalanche, yes.
Sure.
All right, before we move on, check out kencampbell.substack.com for all of Ken's fantastic writing. I myself, apparently I'm a subscriber. I thought I was this whole time. Anyways, that's fine.
You were just getting the free stuff and you just
I don't know. I guess I just thought that I was missing the whatever. You know what? We don't. You know what, Ken? Put your dirty laundry away, okay? We got a podcast to do here.
All right, buddy.
Okay. Also, check us out on Apple Podcasts. We have 90% of our listens come from Canada, and we have one review from Canada.
Wow. Come on, Canada.
Come on, Canada.
Get reviewing. Even if you hate us.
No,
maybe not. No, maybe not. No, just, only if you like
classic
us.
Ken Campbell took it one step too far.
Maybe that's telling us something.
You know what?
Everyone hates us, and
my mom used to always say
Canadians are so polite that they don't want to say we hate you, so they don't say anything.
We'll get 7 reviews that just say sorry.
Yeah.
1 star, sorry.
Yeah.
Check us out on YouTube. Check out the Hockey Podcast Network on YouTube for full episodes, and then of course we release the clips on our own YouTube channel.
I can't
subscribe.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Leave a comment. All that good stuff.
Yeah, I can't believe we suck. I really can't. Like, we're not the best. But I've heard lots of podcasts, and I think we're pretty good.
Okay, so putting this conversation into context, I forgot to get this person's name, but this person deserves a shout out. Who left a comment on YouTube?
Okay,
person deserves a shout out. Shout out. The name on YouTube is The King Is Coming, who says, "Good show." This was when we previewed the conference, previewed the Stanley Cup final.
Yep.
Good show, but Avs in 5, quit sleeping on this juggernaut. Boy, he might have gotten us there.
He might have.
Yeah.
He
quit
might
sleeping
have.
on this juggernaut. I mean, fair enough.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
fair enough. We both were pretty much higher on the Tampa Bay Lightning.
I definitely was. I definitely, but Dylan, I mean, if we sat here and said it last week after 3 games, it would be 2-1 Colorado. I don't think we would have all said, "Oh, the sky's falling in for Tampa." I mean, game 2, just like that, really colored a lot of things. But as bad as Tampa was in game 2, Colorado was just as bad in game 3. You know what I mean? And I think what you're seeing here is, and I've been saying this forever, is that Colorado's goaltending just needs to be good. It doesn't need to be great.
So bad, though.
Just needs to be good. And here's what you see when it's not good.
Yeah.
Like what we're seeing even more is, here's what happens when Colorado plays the way they played in game 3. With all the defensive breakdowns. That's when your goaltending gets, is vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right? It's vulnerable.
Yeah.
And, Kale McCarr and Devin Taves, wow. Like, what happened to those guys?
Yeah.
So to me, I don't think it's I don't think all is lost yet. I really, from a Tampa Bay perspective, I really don't. I think if they can use last night to get back to where they were, but what I'm worried about Tampa is Braden Point didn't play last night.
He's apparently questionable for the upcoming game.
Nikita Kucherov left the game.
Yeah.
I think somebody else left the game. They're banged up big time. I don't know if they have enough. And I don't know if last night wasn't just we got our asses kicked, we got embarrassed. Let's get out there and show, really push the pace and see what we can do. And I don't know that they have that many games, that they've got, that they can do that for 3 of the next 4 games, but they're the defending champs and maybe they can.
Okay, so I'm going to do something that I've never done before on this podcast. I'm going to use a visual aid for last night's game for goaltending. Are you ready for this visual aid?
Are you showing it on the podcast?
I can show it on the podcast.
Okay.
So you see there's that picture of us.
Yeah.
And here we go.
Those look like X-rays bearing very bad news.
This is the shots. Okay?
Yep.
These are the shots. Look at how the shots came from almost the same place for both teams. Both had tons of shots coming from in tight.
Right.
And down the Royal Highway.
Royal Road.
The Royal Road, whatever.
Yeah.
And yet Tampa scores 5 goals right there.
6. Didn't they have 6?
This is 5 versus 5.
Okay.
5 goals right there, and Colorado gets zippity-doo-dah-day.
Right.
So for those that were not able to see that are listening, basically it's a heat map of where the shots are coming from.
Right.
And the shots for Tampa are coming from directly in the center and then to the goalie's right. And the shots from Colorado also coming from directly in the center and to the goalie's right. The difference is Tampa scored a bunch, Colorado didn't. So all things being equal, when Tampa is able to penetrate the defense at the same clip that Colorado is able to, and Vasilevsky has decided to once again be Vasilevsky, Tampa's winning.
I mean, it's the great equalizer, right? So, like, Colorado was never going to win the goaltending matchup in the series ever.
No.
They never were going to win it. Ever. Right?
Yeah.
So, but when it's this stark,
Yeah.
and it's the great equalizer, how do you know? Like, how do you know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Colorado cannot play the way they did in front of Darcy Kemper and expect to win. They can't. I mean, and this is what exactly what I was embodying when I was like, their goaltending just has to be good because they're so good.
Yeah.
But when they're not good and they're breaking down and their best defense, their two best defensemen are horrible.
Yeah.
You're going to end up with this kind of situation. And like Colorado, I mean, Nathan McKinnon's not playing badly.
No,
but he's got to have an impact on this series.
He's got to take the bull by the horns.
He's got to have an impact on this series, and I think he will.
Because right now it's Landeskog and Nichushkin and these other guys and Cale Makar, of course, who are really impacting the series. And Nathan McKinnon is looking pedestrian.
Well, I don't think he looks bad. Like he's keeping up. He's using his speed, but he's got to put his stamp. He's got to put his stamp on this series.
So you know what I saw last night? I don't like being this binary when it comes to team styles because there's so much nuance within all of them. But Tampa likes to set up in the zone and run the play through Nikita Kucherov, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
And what was happening a lot in this series was that Kucherov and the various Tampa players. And actually, I had a fun chat with a scout yesterday for the Los Angeles Kings, where he was also he was telling me some of this stuff. Some of this stuff he told me, some of this stuff I'm extrapolating, right? But basically, what he was saying was the speed that Makar and Devon Taves are able to close the gaps. Yep. All of a sudden, where they're used to cycling around a team, that's no longer an option.
Right.
They have half the time that they would have had. And so I feel as though they, it always looked like Devon Taves and Cale Makar were just on them every second that they tried to set up in the zone. Boom, turnover, rush the other way.
Yep.
Tampa last night, to me, just basically started trying to find the soft areas through the middle, which they managed to find.
Yeah.
And rush the puck. Yep. All things being equal, you would think that a defensemen like Cale Makar and Bowen Byram and Devon Taves, being the excellent skaters that they are, would be breaking up those rushes, but they managed to find soft areas.
And they did, and Pat Maroon's goal was a perfect example of that.
So,
and I mean, everybody's talking about how beautiful
Cirelli's goal as well.
Yeah. And everybody's talking about what a great goal Pat Maroon scored, and it was really nice. But boy, that was bad goaltending.
Yeah,
like why don't you just stand behind the net if you're gonna do that? Like, holy cow.
So I looked up a couple of the stats.
Okay.
Game 1 for the Tampa Bay Lightning at 5 versus 5. Hedman led the team in rush attempts.
Okay.
These are individual rush attempts, not team rush attempts.
Yep.
With 2. And then Ruda, Palat, and Bellemare each had 1. So 5 total rush attempts for individual rush attempts.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, Hedman's a great defenseman. But if your defenseman's leading the team in rush attempts, it's probably not an ideal situation. And if the only other people able to get there are Ruda, Palat, and Bellemare, also not ideal. Game 2, McDonough led the team with 2 rush attempts. And Perry and Hedman each had 1. So only 4 rush attempts individually in the game. Last night, Kucherov, finally an offensive weapon, right? Led the team with 3 rush attempts. And then Killorn, Stamkos, Hedman, and Cirelli all had 1 for 7 total individual rush attempts.
Right. So they're finding the seams. They're finding a way around that speed.
Not only are they finding a way around that speed, but the right players are finding the way around the speed. Because all due respect to Bellemare, if I'm putting the game on somebody's stick and saying, "Oh, this guy's going to get through and get a rush attempt on net," not Bellemare.
Well,
not circling him.
It's a thing. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like with guys like that, it's like, well, they create a lot of opportunities. Yeah, but it's them.
Ask any Leafs fan about Mikheyev.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, love the guy, also hate the guy, right? And I mean, like that was like Paul Byron back in the day as well. There's a lot of guys that they're skating and their hands and are all elite, and then their ability to actually put a puck into the net.
All right, there was a guy that played in the 80s, and he was a Montreal guy. He started out as a Montreal guy, Tom Chorsky. Man, that guy could skate. And if his hands ever matched his feet, he would have been a 35-goal scorer for 10 years in a row.
Yeah. So this is my point with the rush attempts is that, and that's individual. I wasn't able to find team stats for team rush attempts, like odd mans, 2-on-1s, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
you're not looking hard enough.
You're right. You're right. I looked it up this morning. Had myself a late one last night.
Yeah, I know. I can tell.
Yeah. You did the nicest thing in the world. You asked me if you could make a chirp about my hair on the podcast, and then you never made that chirp.
Okay, I'll do it now.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well, for a guy who doesn't drink, it looks like you were on a bender last night.
Oh, snap.
And you burned.
Boom, burned.
Yeah. Boom, roasted.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Boom, roasted. That's right. The Office, yeah. Ken's just saying it because he clearly got a haircut recently. Yeah,
I did.
And because he's not able to take pride and feel good about his own haircut, he has to put down other people's hair.
No, that's just a general way that I am.
Okay.
I build myself up by tearing other people down.
Well,
that's just what I do.
That's well, then I take back wishing you a happy Father's Day.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
That sounds like the worst father trait you could possibly have.
Oh yeah. I hate this family.
In fairness, my dad never let the kids win. My dad never let the kids win.
Oh really?
No, he was never let the kids win guy.
Yeah.
But then, like he got sick relatively early on, right?
Yeah.
Not to get too far into this, but and so he went from not letting the kids win to me letting him win because he was like a frail old man by the time I was 12.
Wow.
I remember playing football with him and I was like, we were both like, I don't want to tackle your old man. Looks like he's going to die from one hit. I was like 12 years old at the time. Anyways, so like
Speaking of frail old men.
Speaking of frail old men.
Can Tampa come back in this series?
So, and that's the $1 million question, is that those seams that they found last night, will they be able to find them again? Because, I don't know if you figured this out by now, but Colorado's like, they're a pretty good team.
They are. And, you are allowed one, I'm just thinking about this now. Like, this is the first stinker they've had in the entire playoffs.
Colorado.
Yeah.
But this is the thing is it a stinker?
It was a stinker. It was a stinker.
Okay, so here's the thing. There was a 2-on-0 against Sergei Bobrovsky when he was playing on the St. Louis Blues. Not the St. Louis Blues. Columbus Blue Jackets. I always get those two mixed up.
Yeah, because
blue and they play a similar style.
And they're in the NHL. Okay. Yeah.
Well, whatever.
Like this isn't like an Ottawa, Saskatchewan Rough Riders thing, eh?
Yeah. Stahl passes to Stahl, intercepted by Stahl. Yeah. So, anyways, the Bobrovsky, there was a 2-on-0, and Jakub de la Rose took the shot.
Yeah.
And Bobrovsky dove over so fast and got the puck on his blocker, and he dropped his stick in diving over because he's like, I'm shedding all additional weight.
Right.
It's like those, like, watching Master and Commander or whatever, those old ship things, and they're throwing stuff overboard because they're just like, we need whatever extra speed we can get, so like the deck hands.
Yeah, the grand piano.
Exactly.
Stuff. Yeah.
So, anyways, Bobrovsky made this incredible save, and the narrative for like 3 days was Jakub de la Rose needs to release that puck faster. And it's like the puck wasn't in a perfect one-time position. He caught and released it pretty quickly, if you ask me, pretty darn quickly.
Yep.
And so that's always been my thing, which is that I don't like the idea of taking away from Tampa. Found a way to dominate the Colorado Avalanche, and Colorado never found a way to claw back. And so, yes, Colorado put up a stinker. Yes, they maybe should have found a way to claw back, but I do not take any marks away from Tampa for this. No, it's not like Colorado woke up that morning and said, you know what? We suck today.
Yeah. No, I don't take any marks away from Colorado either, but I just wonder if they can. From Tampa. I just wonder if they can summon that energy and that willingness and all of those other things 3 times in the next 4 games. I'm not 100% sure they can.
It's a tall order.
But you know what? It's 2-1 now, and 2-1 is not. It's not the end of the world.
Jeff Merrick always says, and this always goes through my mind, or he used to say, or whatever, you're not in trouble until you lose at home. That's a really interesting.
It is because
expression.
Because everybody thought Tampa was like, screw that, they're in trouble.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When in reality, they lost game 1 in overtime and they sucked in game 2. Like, I mean, it happens, right? And everybody was like, no, forget about that. You're not in trouble until you lose at home. They're in trouble right now.
I want to reiterate something that I said last week. And I very rarely fall in love with things that I say because there's just so little to love.
Right.
What I say.
Right.
But every once in a while I say something and I go, you know what? It almost sounded like somebody smart said that.
Right.
And I'm going to say it. The biggest trouble right now with Vasilevsky is that we are comparing him against Vasilevsky. That's the biggest trouble. If you think about every great goaltending performance over the last 20 years, every astounding, whether it's Hasek 20 years ago, whether it's Carey Price, whether it's Halak, whether it's Jonathan Quick, all of these guys, right, that put up stellar goaltending performances, always had 1 or 2 absolute stinker games and even got pulled normally once or twice.
But he's had more than a couple in these playoffs.
But what I'm saying is that we haven't seen him have more than 1 stinker game in 3 years.
Right.
So to turn around and say, oh, he's had like 3 stinker games, that's normal. And it's still a good playoff run. That's normal. If you look at game 2 and he let in 7 goals, like, who cares? You can only lose a game once. Have that stinker come back, and he came back, and he was one of the goals I'd say was not my favorite that Vasilevsky let in, but he had himself a pretty good game. He made a lot of 10-bell saves.
And if the other Nikushkin goal would have counted, the one that was offside, that wasn't a great goal either.
No, I agree.
That wouldn't have been a great goal either.
But sometimes, as a goaltender, whether it hits the post or it was deemed offside or whatever the case is, when you know that you missed a shot and it doesn't result in a goal, sometimes that's a wake-up call as a goaltender.
Well, and I wonder if that wasn't a huge turning point. Right. You know, I mean, you
have a little luck and then you get a little good.
You pick yourself up off the mat, you get a little bit of help, and then you get a second life, and away you go.
So here's the thing that I'm thinking moving forward. I'm gonna make the most trite, most obvious statement ever, and I intend fully to be ridiculed for this. So don't worry if you do. Goaltending, the relationship between a goaltender and a team is the chicken and the egg. If a goaltender plays well, then the team has the confidence to play well.
Yeah.
Similarly, conversely, if the team scores a couple good goals, then the goalie feels good, feels like, oh yeah, that team's given me a chance to win, and now I will take over from here. Right? We have seen 2 games where neither played well.
Right.
And now we've seen a game where I think the team came out better and then the goaltender got on the same page.
He got some energy from that for sure.
He got some energy.
Yeah. And I would also say there's also that situation where it's like if you're goaltending and is bad and it's consistently bad and you have no faith in it, it's almost like, what are we doing? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what we do. We're losing anyways because our goalie's not going to. Our goalie's going to lose this game, right?
So I guess my point is that next game I am curious if the Tampa Bay Lightning are to win the game. I am curious who leads that way. Who leads that?
Yeah.
Does Vasilevsky make 3-4 good saves in a row right at the beginning of the game, and then the team goes, "Oh yeah, we've got Vazzy back," and then plays well, or is it vice versa?
Well, it seems to me that pretty quickly with Vasilevsky if he's on.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Either he lets in a couple of lousy ones early, or he shuts it down, and then it's like, forget it, right?
Those 2 that he made off the toe of his the toe.
Yeah.
Holy jeez.
I think it's really interesting to see what they're going to do at the other end, in the other crease. I don't think there's a goaltending controversy. I think Darcy Kemper will be their guy.
I would start Francouz.
Yeah, well, I don't think they're going to. I don't think they're
going to either.
Yeah.
And this is, I get that I have the unique ability to make a statement like that with absolutely no repercussions whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, I'm not sure it matters that much. It just, like I said, they're never winning the goaltending matchup ever. So you go into the game knowing you're not going to win the goal. You're going to have the second best goalie in the game.
Yeah.
Almost certainly. Right? So, like, all they got to do is find the guy, like I said, that's going to be good.
I mean, and this is, I think, what Tampa did very purposely. They made it a track meet. It was rush attempts going back and forth, and they said, we will take our goaltender, all things being equal, over your goaltender.
We'll take the best goalie in the world.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
Anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
I don't think so. Memorial Cup started last night.
It's the first time I've ever heard you speechless.
Yep. I just said something though. No, I think we've pretty well. We'll do the draft and stuff like that in the next couple of weeks.
Well, you know what? Like, there's so much great hockey to talk about still. We will talk about off-season content in the off-season.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of this episode. Please check out kencampbell.substack.com. Give it a subscription. Check out Hockey Unfiltered on Apple Podcast. Please do leave us a review, a rating. Always good stuff. Check us out on YouTube for clips. You can get the 10-minute little segments of this for the different things that we talk about. And, of course, we will talk to you next week if we haven't pissed you off too much this week.